It's time now for business. Let's say hello to Brian Quinn. It's been years in the making. The Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has been brokering those talks to reform the global tax system, which hasn't been reformed in a century.
Well, there's a big step today, Francois. Obviously, this process is not over, though. 130 nations, in fact, have signed on to support a global minimum tax. That's according to the OECD Thursday. Under the deal, multinational firms, including U.S. tech giants like Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, would have to be taxed at a rate of at least 15% where they make their profits. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen hailed what she called a, quote, historic deal that brings the world one step closer to ending the race to the bottom for corporate tax rates. Clear divisions, though, still remain. 9 countries involved in negotiations declined to sign on to the accord. That includes Hungary and Ireland, where many of those U.S. tech giants keep their European headquarters. Next, here in France, new dads can now take 4 weeks of paid paternity leave. That's up from 14 days previously. The policy won't be cheap for the government, with Social Security picking up most of the tab. Whether or not to take it will also remain a dilemma for some fathers, especially those in more precarious work contracts, as Selena Sykes explains.
Some good news for new fathers in France. The government is doubling paternity leave to 28 days, up from 14. The bulk of the cost, an estimated 500 million euros a year, will be met by France's social security system. Like with maternity leave, employers cover just the first 3 days. Fathers have been able to take paternity leave in France since 2002. Around 70% currently do so, though there is a stark difference between employees on long-term and temporary contracts. According to a 2018 report by the General Administration of Social Affairs, 80% of fathers on long-term contracts take paternity leave, compared to just 47% on short-term ones. Many face a financial dilemma, as the payout from Social Security can be far lower than their working salary. It's capped at just over 89 euros per day. French President Emmanuel Macron's government said it hoped to reduce this inequality by introducing a compulsory week of fully paid paternity leave for every new father. Companies that violate this will face a fine of 7,500 euros. The reform puts France up there with the most generous countries in the EU. Nearly half of member states give fathers less than the 10-day minimum fixed by legislation, which has to be enforced by August 2022.
Well, next, the so-called sausage wars between the EU and the UK have been put on hold for the time being. Both sides have agreed to delay the implementation of checks on chilled meat shipped from mainland Britain to Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland Protocol of the Brexit Withdrawal Agreement keeps the UK member country within the EU single market, thus requiring controls on goods crossing the Irish Sea. Now, that's become a political flashpoint for the Conservative UK government, which sees the protocol as an affront to national sovereignty. Brussels says the easiest way to end the impasse for good is for the UK to simply align its food safety standards to those of the EU. Here's Commission Vice President Mario Sefcovic.
However, we are not issuing a blank check. This solution is of temporary nature in which strong conditions are attached, meaning that the UK must fulfill clear obligations.
Nissan, meanwhile, has announced a major expansion of its electric vehicle production in the UK. The Japanese car giant already has an EV plant in the northeast English city of Sunderland. More than 1,600 new jobs are expected to be created there as Nissan launches its next-generation all-electric small SUV. The company is investing £1 billion in partnership with its Chinese partner Envision AESC, which will build a giant battery factory to supply some 100,000 vehicles per year. The project's backers are casting it as a vote of confidence in the British car industry after years of uncertainty for its future following the Brexit vote. The UK has pledged to ban the sale of gas and diesel cars by 2030 even. Here's Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
By increasing the number of batteries we can make in the UK, increasing the number of electric vehicles we can make, getting those economies of scale we're going to need so that the price of EVs comes down and they become more affordable for families than petrol vehicles and diesel vehicles. And that will happen, I think, far quicker than people are currently expecting.
Turning to the markets next, Wall Street kicking off the second half of the year mostly in the green as weekly U.S. unemployment claims came in Thursday at their lowest number since the start of the pandemic. Airlines and energy stocks gaining ground with the Dow and the S&P 500 up around 2 to 0.3%. The Nasdaq lagging behind as Amazon and Alphabet shares lose ground there. European indexes getting a good start to the second half as well, as new data out Thursday shows manufacturing activity on the continent growing at its fastest rate ever in June. London up 1.25% at the close, Paris up around 0.7%, with Frankfurt up just under 0.5% to end the day. And finally, for business, the end of an era for casual fashion. U.S.-based clothing giant The Gap says it's shutting down all 81 of its physical shops in the UK and Ireland. The store is set to be closed between August and September. The company, though, says it is not exiting the UK market, but instead moving to online sales only. The Gap was a major success when it first crossed the Atlantic in 1987, but it's struggled in recent years to adapt both to new trends and to the growth of online shopping. Following what it calls, quote, a strategic review of its European business, the company is also planning to sell its shops in France, Italy, and Germany. And Francois, my joke would normally be, where do I get my mom jeans? But mom jeans are back in now, so I guess the joke's on me. I'm a boomer now, I think.
Okay. Well, there you go. Many thanks. The fashion-conscious Brian Quinn, who will be back later with more business news. It's time now for sports. We say hello to